Hey everybody, welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast, where double the hosts, double the topics, and double the fun. I'm Sarah, and it's just me today. Well, that's not entirely true. You're going to hear from Charity and Alan and Dan in just a bit. But first things first, we're at a new year and a new season, which is amazing on both counts. Oh my gosh, season 10. I'm so excited. We got some great stuff in store. But for this week's episode is actually going to be a little different. Some of you may or may not know, but Double Stuffed, along with two other local podcasts, were featured in a citywide newspaper called the Wichita Eagle, which is pretty awesome. It's actually gotten a lot of hits. And the article is titled, Wichita-based podcasts bring culture, conversation, and movement to listeners. And I just want to give a thanks and a shout out to Wichita Eagle for that opportunity, and also for Emily Christensen. She, like me, is a college professor, but she also freelances as a writer for the Eagle. And she had let me know about this opportunity, and we were able to arrange it for her to interview all four of us at the same time, which I'm sure made for a very entertaining evening. So what you're about to hear is actually Emily's interview with us. We were totally in podcast mode when we were doing this interview. And actually, Emily didn't really have to say too much, and she didn't have to ask too many questions, because I think the more we talked, the more they were pretty much answered for the most part. So here it is. You're going to enjoy it in all of its laughable interviewing type glory. So here it is.
I wanted to start by just asking you each to give me a little bit of background about yourselves.
Why don't you start us off, Sarah?
Of course, I can totally do that. So yes, my name is Sarah Harmon, and I am a graphic designer, writer, performer, award-winning filmmaker.
Oh my goodness, right there, right off the bat.
You knew she was going to say it. You knew it was coming.
I'm nothing if not humble. So I have to put that there.
I'm Charity Harmon. I am Sarah's sister. Since we're talking about awards, I too get to say I'm an award-winning documentary. We worked on it together, so we get to share credit.
Just let me know now, it's going to be disappointing when you hear Dan and Alan will be like,
yeah, Emily, I am not an award-winning filmmaker.
But very excited to be doing this with two of my fellow coworkers. I've been doing media for a long time. Technically started at 12, but I wasn't getting paid for it. So yeah, I guess I started getting paid for it after college, doing video work and stuff. But this is our first time doing any sort of podcasting. So really excited to have explored this new medium for the past couple years, and hopefully we can do it for a little while longer.
So I'm Alan Atha IV, and I was born and raised in Topeka, and I got a football scholarship to go to William Jewell College in Liberty, Missouri, where I quickly realized that I would no longer play football after college, nor would I utilize my majors of, I was a double major, philosophy and fine art. And so I went as far away from Kansas as I could and went to California, where I went to film school, and I met my wife, and we started our family out there. And after close to 20 years away from my family, we wanted our kids to know their cousins, and we wanted to be closer to the family. So we left California, landed in Wichita, and without a job, and on a whim, landed at a place where these three fine folk were my co-workers at the, I don't know, are we plugging Channel 8 on this?
Well, you've already started. Now you got to keep going.
Okay, so I got hired by Channel 8.
It's an important part of the story. That's how we
all met. It is,
because
that's where we all met. I had never started a podcast. So for me, it started out as a bit of an experience or an experiment that turned into an experience. And it's just been a joy every time that we get together. We try to stay on topic. We try to stay away from food, but we just have a lot of fun.
Lies. Those are all lies.
An attempt is made anyway.
We try to throw it, pepper in some education.
Pepper. You already started.
I got there. I can't avoid
Talking about food again.
I think that we're comfortable with this medium and have a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome. Daniel, or you go by Dan, is that right?
Yeah, Dan or Daniel is fine. Daniel's
just Dan.
Just
This is
Dan.
Dan. I graduated from Wichita State about a decade ago now, a little over. And I've been working in about every part of behind the scenes television production that you can think of, from running teleprompter to directing newscasts to shooting and editing video and master control. And now I do programming. We're all part of media, and we all worked in public television and still continue to work in some form today. So,
And
Well,
he's
how
got a
did
wife and cat.
got two cats.
Nice to know that we have to bump up the bio for you, Dan, so that way you don't have
Yeah.
to say it yourself.
Well,
he's
I mean, that's the other thing too, though, is I do not have any awards unless you count the participation trophies that I've gotten for the multiple sports I've attempted.
Hey, it's
That
something.
counts.
So I noticed that you did start, I think, in March of 2020, so around the beginning of the pandemic. Was this something that you all were already planning, and then the pandemic happened? It's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was completely happenstance. For years, the three of us have been joking around and busting each other's chops. Sarah and I, we were working a production. After the production had ended, somehow we had started a topic, and this is kind of indicative of our podcast. I think we started off talking about keys to something, and then we ended up with the statement that I made adamantly that, and that's why I don't trust people without sideburns. It was so far from the beginning of where we started the conversation. We thought that's just absurd enough that people might understand and be able to follow along with us.
It actually worked out that we sort of accidentally launched during the pandemic, just because that was during a time where so many people were scared, or depressed or freaking out, or all these sort of emotions of people getting sick or people getting laid off and stuff, that we had a few people come up to or send us messages or come up to me personally. It was like, the fact that you guys are all together and that you're having fun and laughing, that's sort of what got us through lockdown. And because you're watching the news constantly and it's all bad news and it's all just something terrible, that you kind of need to get a break from all of the terrible things that are happening. And so we sort of provided that for people, that for at least 20-25 minutes you could take a break, you could hang out with us, have fun, laugh, and kind of get away from all of the terrible news that was going on.
And it's kind of funny too, because it's not like we set out to do that. We tend to record episodes ahead of time, so we had plotted and planned to record episodes, and we got a few of them in the bag, and then we wanted to release on April Fool's Day, and then everything happened, and it just so happened that all of the episodes that we had ended up recording, we never mentioned the pandemic because it just wasn't a thing when we were actually talking about it. So we were able to sort of bring that level of levity, or that kind of levity.
I don't know. I'm always considered like niche. Maybe it is. I don't know, because we don't really have a specific genre that we do. It's just us talking about things. Yeah. But I think that's what kind of makes it fun. Like I said, I call it restaurant conversation. It's like when you get your friends together. Yeah. And you got your snacks on the table and you just talk for however long, and you don't realize time has gone by. You had a good time. Same time next week, of course. And so I kind of like that.
We're all producers and we all have skill sets that we're able to divvy up responsibilities. And so it doesn't really feel like work. It doesn't feel like, it truly is a labor of love, because we all go to our strengths. Sarah and Charity are fantastic with social media. Dan and I are more on the editing and technical aspects of keeping the project going and posted and distributed. And
that part is very important. You can make something look pretty, but if it doesn't work, then it's just sitting there looking pretty. So it really is important to work on the back end stuff and all the editing and the website maintenance and all that kind of stuff. The non-glamorous bits, but it's the most important.
50% of it is happening behind the scenes, if not more, just to get it to where it needs to go to a listener or to the end user. And I think that one of the strengths that all of us have as producers is being able, we were able to pull on all those skills. We've had some discussions on like what types of platforms to use and software to use and things like that. It's never been a hair pulling experience, or we've never we've never had a freak out over what to do, because we've all fortunately had plenty of experience coming in and just applying it to this new form.
I think an interesting point to make too, to sort of answer your question about our inspiration, our backgrounds as far as how we live our lives and what we like to do and all that stuff. It's so different, and we all have such unique and funny stories to bring to it. Like the guys are married, Sarah and I aren't, so you have a married perspective. Alan's got kids, so you have a father's perspective. And you have a male female perspective sometimes. So we bring a bunch of different dynamics to the stories that we tell, the way we view the world, and so I think that brings a bunch of interesting topics and interesting points of view to the stuff that we say.
And we're all pretty responsible and accountable, so that helps out too.
That's actually really big. Putting together a podcast is a lot of work. We romanticize about it a lot because we think, oh, it's just talking in front of a microphone and poof, we're done. But there's so much in there. I mean, to be honest, the recording is a small part.
How long is the original conversation, or how much are you editing it down? Every episode is, I think, between 20 and 30 minutes roughly.
I do a lot of the editing as of late. Mostly it's to edit my audio track, because everybody else has fantastic vocabulary and
exactly that part right there.
Yeah, their trains of thought go really smooth, and then I just blunder my way through a conversation.
That's what happens when you don't prepare, Alan.
Yeah, so I guess technically, it's an hour full of ums and awkward pauses, and by the time you edit it all together, it makes a half hour show.
Yeah, we do talk beforehand, like when we're setting up mics and doing mic checks. Sometimes we'll talk for 3 or 4 minutes. It's almost like a warm up, like we're checking the mics, but we're also kind of just discussing the topic or something completely random, as we've posted before. Yeah. And so some of those fun conversations make it to an after hours extra bit that we post on YouTube and social media. So we do time ourselves when we're doing our episodes to make sure that we do stay within a certain time slot, but the microphone and everything, we're always recording.
And the 20-minute sort of framework wasn't necessarily dictated by us. Originally, we were going to go until the conversation ended, and because we're unsponsored and at the moment unfunded, I mean, this is all just, like I said, a labor of love. The free distribution software that we use, Buzzsprout, only has like a certain amount of time that we can upload per month. The 20-minute mark is kind of the mark that we stick to. It was a blessing in disguise, because it sets up a finish line for us that we land pretty good every single episode.
Until the ship comes in and, we're rolling in the dough and all. I mean, even the equipment we have at the moment is borrowed. The software that I use to edit stuff and to do the graphics, that's borrowed. I am looking forward to the day when that's not the case, which I'm believing will be in the very near future. Once more people hear about us and we're pretty interested in what we have to say and are willing to, put a few dollars our way, and we can be able to have some sponsorships and go for longer and buy our own equipment. So it's coming, but that's kind of what we're working on for the time being.
What kind of audience are you speaking to? Like, who is your audience for this podcast?
I kind of think the audience is us, honestly. Like, we kind of just talk about things that we're interested in, and we hope that people will join us and find it interesting as well, because I think we're pretty interesting people.
In the beginning, when we were first doing the recordings, and Alan or Dan, somebody had sent us the stats of who was listening and where they were listening from, and like 99% of it is people from Kansas, so obviously friends and family, but there were different people that randomly would listen from different states. Someone listened in Colorado, someone listened in Texas, and so there's outsiders listening in. And we had a couple of different countries listening in too, just, somebody that randomly stumbled across us and gave us a listen. So it was interesting to see the stats of people outside of Kansas, outside of friends and family that are listening. And I think someone had come up to Sarah one time because they recognized her voice, which I think is really cool. It's recognizable.
As far as how the double stuff format is set right now, I think what makes it so accessible for me and encouraging is that it's real, it's authentic, and these are the real conversations that all four of us have all the time and had before we even started the podcast.
Do you have any other goals for the project?
Some of the podcasts I like to listen to, just because I'm really big on comedy, some podcasts are actually done in front of a live audience. And I think it'd be kind of fun for us to do a few episodes with a live studio audience. It's always fun to get that instant feedback. It lets you know if you're not funny or not. And I think that'd be kind of cool to try out, to do some of those. And once it's something that we can actually do as a career, we could always travel, go on the road. Our hub is in Wichita. That doesn't mean we can't go elsewhere, California, Montana, Wyoming, whatever, and just do it wherever we want to, or do it for certain events or festivals or something like that. Because the podcast industry has exploded so much, a lot of film festivals are starting to accept podcasting episodes in their entries. We can figure out what will be our best episode to date. So that'd be kind of cool to submit one of our podcast episodes to some film festivals, and then it'd be cool if we won, and we could all be award-winning podcasters.
We've also talked about having guests on our show. We've experimented with family members because family members are more forgiving.
Yeah.
and they're also free, but it would be cool if we were able to expand. We could bring in some local celebrities or whatever would fit the topic that we have at hand.
One of the things we talked about is it's really important to dream big, but when you're starting out something like this, it's consistency is the key, and really just being able to put the time and the effort and the hours in before you really see a lot of the payoff. And we've put in a lot of that time, and we're going to continue to put in the time. And hopefully now we're at that point where we'll see some of those things start to happen.
You all have alluded to it, but how do you record? What is your setup?
We prefer, I think, all of us is we got to get into a room together. We all have our mics in front of us, and we just get to record almost in a roundish, squarish table. I kind of threw a wrench in the plans pretty early on, so we've done it a few different ways. I was on Zoom and everybody else was together because I moved and then moved back. So we're very flexible.
There's been circumstances that have popped up, and we've been able to roll with a lot of, I don't want to call them punches because they didn't punch hard. A lot of
few slaps, yeah.
Yeah.
What makes a good topic for this podcast?
Depending on how the conversations go when we actually record, sometimes one of us might make a comment about something and we don't revisit it. I'm like, oh, that'd be a good topic for a future episode.
Sometimes we pick stuff seasonally as well. So we did the back to school theme, for August. We did our holiday episodes already. So those were centered around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's and stuff. So some of them set themselves up because of the time of year that they are. And the other ones are just, oh, wouldn't it be funny if ... And that's sort of how we come up with those topics too.
What are your favorites? Do you have them, or are there ones that you look back on, or do you re-listen to yourself?
One of us
have to when you're editing.
One of us does listen to all of them.
When we do our conversations, we always go back, we make references to things. And so if I know someone's going to say that, I'm like, that was episode 63. And you said this. So then I end up turning into the double stuff encyclopedia.
I really don't know how you do that. I know we've talked about it and I remember the episode, but you'll remember the episode number and the title and what month we recorded it. You'll remember all the little details. And I'm just like, yeah, that one episode.
Yeah.
Sarah's the historian when it comes to the show, really. So we did one whole season where we actually went back and looked, and we call seasons every 10 episodes. We kind of split it up into seasons, and we did one whole one where we went back and looked at how we were when we were young and rookies. And revisited those, and that was a lot of fun.
One of my favorite episodes we actually did recently was the spelling bee episode. So normally at the end of each season we'll do a game together. We did our back to school series, and so we ended that season with the spelling bee. So I found a bunch of words, some easy, some difficult. It was so much fun to see them sort of stumble over words, especially ones that some of them I feel like we use in conversation, but when you have to spell it and you're put on the spot, it's a whole different thing. But I had a lot of fun with that episode, watching them struggle trying to spell words.
And if you want to listen, that's episode 80, by the way.
See what you're doing?
Now, I will say one episode that shocked me was an episode, I believe it was in season 3, called Grassiology.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
mine.
Yes,
I know. I don't know how we did so well with that episode. I thought that one was going to crash.
Because it was good. It was supposed to be Dan's topic.
That's right.
And he said, I don't have a topic. And I was like, don't even worry about this. And you guys were like, are you sure you have a topic out? And I said, I've got a topic. Don't even worry about it. And we were going to talk about lawn care for 20 minutes.
Lawn care, cutting the grass for 20 minutes.
And it was a banger. It was an awesome
I just remember at one point during the episode, I feel like we were only maybe 3 or 4 minutes in. And this part obviously got edited out, but there was like a small dead space where I was like, crap, this is as far as this conversation's going to go. I don't know how we're going to fill 15 more minutes about lawn care.
I was just getting warmed up, Charity.
It was just crazy because that's been one of our, for some reason, that's become one of our most popular episodes.
I think it's episode 28.
Thank you, Dan. Did you check that real quick?
I did.
Oh no, you shouldn't have admitted that. You should be like, oh, I got it.
I know, but I'm not that smooth. As we see, like in some of my favorite episodes where we do the Just a Minute or the Just a Minute style.
Those
game.
are so much fun. I love.
I'm not
those.
that smooth.
Well, I'm always surprised at how competitive Dan is, because Dan is so chill. Dan is so chill. He's so laid back. But like when we do the Just a Minute games and like he messes up, he gets super into it.
Yeah.
I'm more mad at myself though, more than that. Not mad, disappointed.
Yeah, but that's like the most emotion that I've seen you like ever.
Yeah, if you and the listeners and readers, if they want to try Just a Minute, they have to be able to stick to one topic for 60 seconds, no stuttering, no deviating from the topic, no repeating yourselves, and you have to do that for a full 60 seconds. It's a lot harder than it sounds.
It's harder than you would think. Oh, it's just a minute, but it's difficult, and it's the slowest minute of your life.
Well, I have asked all my questions. Is there anything that I'm not asking that you all would like to talk about?
I was actually waiting for you to say how we got our name, because you didn't.
Oh yes, thank you. That actually is one of my questions. I did not ask it. Please.
I want to hear Sarah explain it.
Yeah, Sarah, this is all you.
Have you ever seen a double stuffed Oreo?
Yes.
Okay. The construction of a double stuffed Oreo consists of.
It sounds so proper when you say it.
Webster's defines a double stuffed Oreo as.
Because an Oreo is that you have the cookies on the end and then you have the white cream in the middle.
Sarah and I were in the control room running one of the live productions the first time that she told me that. Yeah. And I was just like, that's it. I mean, I was just rolling. I was just like, that's the perfect name right there.
We knew that there was all kinds of things that could get construed with that name in all different areas and arenas and industries, and we said, you know what, we're just going to do it.
Sarah and I did spend like almost 2 hours just researching and seeing what names were out there, because we actually came up with a lot of good alternative names, only to find out that they were already taken. So we looked up social media, we looked up websites, we looked up stuff on YouTube, and we were like, okay, we kept going back to Double Stuff Podcast, and basically what Alan said, we were just like, well, guess we're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it just sounds silly. It works out for us, really. Some people's like, oh, that's cool, and they listen. It's not like, I wonder what the connotation is between Double Stuff Podcast. And the other thing that makes us special is that the Double Stuff Oreo, they spell it with one F. We spell ours with 2, so, you know.
I didn't know that until we started.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't either.
Because I think Sarah brought that up, and I was like, oh my gosh, all these years, I didn't know they spelled it this way. So we learned something new at the very beginning of the podcast.
So there you have it. That's the deep, dark origins of Double Stuff. Oh my goodness, that was so much fun. We we're totally on a podcast high, interview high, whatever you want to call it by the end of that. We really enjoyed that a lot. So thank you again, Emily, for that opportunity. Thank you to Wichita Eagle for, getting that article published and some social media exposure, some digital exposure. I think it was a great opportunity for us. Definitely looking forward to doing more. And oh my gosh, what a perfect segue for that. If you are interested in maybe us being a guest on your podcast or radio show or something like that, please let us know. I think it would be fun to do this on a more regular basis. So check us out on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube at Double Stuff Podcast, and of course on Twitter at Double Stuff P, and that's the letter P.